All right. Thank you so much for joining us for StagsCon and specifically for Service 101. So why service? Obviously, we are a volunteer organization. Without service, nothing would get done. So thank you this morning for showing your interest in service. We live by many hands make light work. Trying to organize even something like this, StagsCon, all of the coordination, it's not a one-person deal. It requires a team, but that also gets everybody involved. So to use an example they've mentioned at Estrella for any number of years, if everyone who attended Estrella would donate 2 hours, they would say that all shifts, all duties will be covered. Of course, that doesn't quite happen. But service is a great opportunity outside of road trips and crash space, which we have not been enjoying at this time, to actually get to know some other people. So I'm going to use this opportunity to do introductions, meet everybody, and kind of find out either what their level of service are or what they would kind of like it to be. So my name's Mistress Catriona. I started in Artemisia. I've been here in Outlands for a few years. I've been an officer at baronial level, principality level in the Principality of Artemisia, and at kingdom level. And then I'm a mistress of the Pelican. Pelicans, I kind of feel, are sort of like on duty service at large at any time. So I'm going to start on what looks like my upper left, and I'm going to butcher your name. Is it Gwengu? Please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Gwen Wiu. Like Wiu, Wiu. Gwen is fine. No one can say it because it's Welsh. It's great. I've been doing SCA for about 7 years, and I can't help getting involved helping things. I see somebody unpacking, I go to help them. I see somebody tearing something down, I just have to go help there. So it's just part of who I am and my nature, and it's how I enjoy doing things like going to events. So I figure I might as well make it a little more official, learn how to get more involved, and go from there.
There we go. All right. The next person going across the top row, at least for me, is Lady Helga. Helga, would you introduce yourself, please?
Unmute. I'm Lady Helga Goldharich von Zurich. And most people just call me Lady Helga because the rest of it's too hard to deal with. I've been in the SCA since 1984, so going on 40 years now. Been in it a long time. I was at first just your generic person running around trying to figure this out. And then I got involved with a lady who ran a group within the SCA, and she taught me a whole lot. And I became a lady in waiting. And then I had to move away to a place where the closest SCA events were at least 3 hours away from me. So I kind of lost touch and wasn't really involved for about 25 years. And I just retired from where I was, and I've moved to Las Cruces, and I found out they had a group here, and it's like, oh, I can rejoin. So I joined up, and I learned they were having a herald that was going to be stepping down, and they needed someone to be a herald. And I said I'd be willing to do that because when I was active, I was very involved in heraldry. And I did help be a herald for an incipient group that did eventually become a full-fledged group, and then everybody moved away and it went kaput. But so I have a little bit of expertise in service because I did a whole lot of that, but because I'm getting my feet wet again, I just want to see if things have changed, if it's harder, easier, and all that.
Well, welcome to the Outlands, and I'm sure Naroon is happy to have you. All right, Una, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Una Farrellsdottir, and I live in the Barony of Arkell. Let's see, I've been in the SCA since 2010. I've held a number of offices. I was Seneschal of Villa-Leon before it was absorbed by Arkell. I'm Seneschal right now of Arkell, and I've also been Minister of Arts and Sciences. And I have a problem. I have helium hands. I just enjoy helping and doing things.
All right, thank you, Una. Albinus, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm Dominus Albinus. I live in Alberon, and I just enjoy service. I was doing service even well before I was fighting, and I just like working and helping in, the background.
There we go. Thank you for hosting this room. Appreciated.
My pleasure.
Johanna, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Johanna Morgenstern. I have been a paid member of the SCA since 1989. When I first joined, I had joined a group who was just at that point creating a new shire. So I got to be on the ground floor of how this is all done, and service is an all hands on deck situation when you are forming a new shire. And so really you get thrown in the deep end because you're still trying to figure out what works out for you. It's extremely gratifying to see something being created from scratch. And then to, even if you've moved on over the years, you can go back and you see that they are still going. And that's always it's always a satisfying feature. So I am currently the Seneschal of the Barony of Alberon, and that is probably the highest office that I have taken myself at this point in my career. I have spent over 30 years basically with a desk and a clipboard for the most part in my hand. So, I'm just, I'd happy to help anyone and answer any questions in Barony if they want to see if they find a place and, ramp up their service.
Thank you. Jasper, would you introduce yourself?
He put a written thing in the text in the chat.
Okay. I'm going to pull up my chat. Thank you. And I am not actively monitoring the chat because it's popping up over all my windows, but I'll periodically glance at it. Grania, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Grania. I am in the Barony of Alberon, and I do servicey things sometimes when I get a chance. It kind of, heraldry's one of my big jams too, so yeah, yay servicey things.
Thank you. Ua.
Hi, I'm Ua. I'm a pelican, which means I've been documented as having helium hand. Yeah, in the Barony of Alberon, I've been playing for about 27 years now. So, yeah, I do servicey things too.
Thank you. Marion.
She also posted in the chat before Jasper.
Understood. And Sophia.
Hi, I'm Sophia. Haven't really done much of this stuff before. I'm just trying to see what's going on and get involved a little bit more.
Sounds great. Welcome. All right. So various levels of service. The SCA, on all levels, you can get involved as much or as little as you want. You know, there's those people that have one T-tunic and show up, you know, every 5 or 6 months. And then the people who have a closet full of clothes and do this most nights a week. So a good way to start out in service, it sounds like most of you have already covered this, but giving 2 or 4 hours of your time doing like a shift at the gate. The first people that anybody coming to an event gets to see. When we start having feasts again, serving, heralding one round of a tournament, participating in setup or takedown. Now, obviously, if you're an early morning person or a gotta get there soon person, setup is more suited to you. If you're not, but you're gotta be one of the last 5 people off site, well, then maybe takedown. Once we go up from there, there's coordinating all of those people. So not just sitting one gate shift, but filling all of the gate shifts for a day or a weekend. Being the hall steward, directing the servers so that the chaos is a little more controlled and everybody gets some food, not one side of the hall gets a lot and the back of the hall gets none. Scheduling all of the heralds of the tournament, you know, making sure that you've got everybody from, you know, round 1 through whatever the finals need to be. And then perhaps being the person to bring the stuff for setup or being the responsible party to gather it and return it back to its storage. I would consider this a step up from there, being the event steward or being the feast steward for an event. Except for very small events, you cannot do it all by yourself. And even if it is a very small event, getting other people involved, allowing them to help you, makes them feel more invested, more included. Not everybody is good at the cocktail hour social chit chat. So a lot of people find that being given a task to do, being able to contribute, makes them feel more involved, more a part. Now, if you are going to event or feast steward, my strong recommendation is either start with a smaller event or have a mentor to get you to be there for all of the questions. So that's working kind of bottom up, then top down, assemble your dream team. Decide who, you know, is that gregarious person who might be the best welcome at the gate. Right now, while we're doing COVID checks, and of course that is on some level a charged topic, who is going to be able to handle those sorts of questions and perhaps some pushback with calmness, grace, and clarity. The bigger the event, the more coordinators you will have under you. So knock on wood, obviously there's going to be archery. We're also doing Toys for Tots. So there's going to be tournaments for Toys for Tots. The cooks typically do a bake sale. So there's at least 3 coordinators plus the setup team and the gate. Some can be fairly self-directed. You turn the cooks loose and they just kind of do their thing. And then some need a bit of a vision. I mean, there's plenty of people who will jump in and help with setup, but they kind of need to have some idea, well, the archery is going to be in this area and we need nothing behind it, obviously for safety purposes. And we'd like to do gate over here. And we're going to do the pile of toys in this direction so it's not too difficult to haul it over a ravine to get it to parking or something. So generally the event story, some of it's in advance, getting the site, getting the date, but then it's also just being there to provide some direction to the people who are willing to, as everybody put it, have Helium Hand jump in, tell me what I got to do and I'll do it. For the larger events, if possible, it is nice to have people shadow the coordinators, kind of see what's going on at their level without necessarily right away being the person who has all of the responsibility on them at once. Now, that's an ideal. Sometimes we achieve the ideal, sometimes we don't. But it's always, if we can do it, a good form of training or experience to have somebody shadow our coordinators to get a taste before the whole thing is on them. And then obviously the key thing when you're doing anything, coordinating a gate, trying to explain your vision for setup, making sure that, you know, the servers know which tables they've got. Communication, communication, communication. I can't stress that enough. The only way this shared vision of herding cats works is if we attempt to communicate and be a team. Now, obviously, there are challenges in service. The unexpected can happen. In the past, I would have used an example of weather. You know, we always hope that our outdoor events will be a lovely sunny day, and then we have the ones where the gale force winds strike the tent city. But the more up-to-date one would be the coronavirus. Now, obviously, that radically changed how we had to do SCA for a while. I'm glad to see that, you know, for some things like StagsCon, we've been able to adopt a platform like this and have people, thank you, Albinus, who are willing to kind of shepherd us through this. I'm willing to get up here to talk, but I'm not sure I quite yet have the skills to be a host. One of the challenges in service, getting too little direction. You're there, you want to help. You ask, what can I do? And you get shrugged shoulders. The opposite of that is too much direction. 2 or 3 different people have a vision and they are each trying to communicate their vision. And so somebody tells you to get, you know, 10 stands and take them over to the northwest corner of the field. But no, then somebody else says, but we're setting up the list tent over there. Please get 8 stands and take them over to the south side of the field. It can be helpful to try to seek out, all right, who's the person who's kind of in charge of where we're putting stuff? I don't want to see anybody go to a ton of effort before they, decide, yes, it's really going on the south side of the field. It seems kind of the theme, the SCA before, the movie, Shakespeare in Love, and now, of course, with COVID, sometimes you just got to roll with it. We don't always know how it's going to happen. Somehow it always does, but we don't always know how. A sense of humor tends to help. I'm going to use Adam as an example because he's not here to contradict me. He has a vision. I appreciate him having a vision. he is not always the easiest to roll with it when the vision kind of goes sideways. It can help everybody. His stress level, my stress level, your stress level. If you just kind of take a moment, realize if the stands wind up on the south side of the field, it's not the end of the event, and just kind of roll with it. When possible, and this isn't always possible, but when possible, I mean, things happen. Cars break down, illnesses happen. It's good to, beforehand, if you've taken a coordinator position, perhaps figure out who you might be able to go to, who would have your back if something happened, like you were late or for whatever reason prevented from attending the event. And then, as I previously mentioned, communication, communication, communication. They kind of need to know what responsibilities have been accepted, what the expectations are, how they will get whatever materials or supplies will be needed. Now, that's not always possible, and sorry, seneschals, as you know, seneschals are the default for that. But if possible, just have in your mind who might be able to have your back in the event that, you know, the car breaks down on the way to the event. So whenever you take a coordinator position, ask about the expectations. Your vision of what the volunteer coordinator, the scope of what the volunteer coordinator might be required to do might be slightly different than the person who's assigning. So if you talk it out beforehand, then you're not finding out on site the day of the event. And here's a big one for all of us who will be like the call of the volunteer, I'll do it, I'll do it, I'll do it. Realistically define what you can give. I always appreciate people who are willing to dive in full guns, but then it's a challenge when we have to pick them up off the side of the field afterwards. This is supposed to be a hobby. We are not supposed to kill ourselves to do this. It helps to take a realistic view of what you can give and to know when you need it, who can call in to help, who can be your personal team to support you. If you're going to be at gate and you know you're going to need drinks or food, who's that person from camp that can come to you while you're, you know, stuck doing your job? Or on the flip side, you know somebody who's volunteered to be marshal or herald, and you know that they're going to need a little support. Throw in that extra water bottle or that extra sandwich to make sure they can keep going with what they're doing. Sometimes service is supporting those who are up in the more visible positions and can't step away to take care of their personal needs. So becoming an officer, which would be, I would think, the next step up, there's an entire session at 10 a.m. right after this session that is being led by Sir Alexander. So I'm not going to dig into this too much. And if you're really interested in that, though, it sounds like the majority of the participants here have already held some offices, have that sort of experience. But I would highly recommend attending the next session in this same room, Becoming an Officer by Sir Alexander. If possible, try to find an office that is a good fit. I know people who Let's say being the coordinator for the Artisans Row at Battlemore. They love that. That's cool. Talking to artisans, finding out what their interests are, seeing their enthusiasm. And for other people, trying to organize artisans, are you nuts? So obviously some people would be a better fit for that, some people not. Exchequers. There are people, hey, a spreadsheet makes perfect sense to them. And there are other people, money, do not let me near the money. I will not touch the money. Obviously a different skill set. And when you do choose to take an office, you're automatically getting a group of people with whom you can coordinate. You can collaborate up. So if you're going to be an exchequer or a chronicler or a seneschal or a hospitaller, there is generally an officer above you. At baronial level, at kingdom level, there are resources available. Someone with whom you can chit chat about the specifics of that particular area. And then there's also collaboration across. If you're in a small shire, a baronial officer may not have had quite the same challenges that you've experienced, but other shire officers, yeah, definitely. And they might, you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. You will have to tweak it for your specific situation, but they might have some ideas. Oh yes, when we ran into that, we tried X. So you can collaborate up the chain, the offices above you, and across other people in that same area who perhaps have had to solve a problem and then are willing to share that experience with the solutions they came up with. Royal service, kind of its own little category. There is also going to be an entire session on that around, I believe it's at 2 p.m. This is the theater part of the SCA. This is the create the mystery, create the dream part of the SCA. So like theater, there's a stage crew. There's the main actors. There's the props, the chairs, the tables, the banners, the scrolls, the medallions. There's wardrobe, making sure everybody's in their proper place, as designated by our heraldry. Heraldry works. Lined up, stage direction. Who's coming in where, how they are filing off. Do we have room for everybody to sit up front on the sides? Are we going to have them pass around? Recognition. It's often said that some of the jobs we do are thankless. And yes, having watched like the people who pick up the trash bags at the end of the event, most everybody's bugged offside by that point. It can be somewhat thankless. So one service that can be done, having been service-oriented people and knowing how nice it is to get a thank you, a service everybody can perform is thanking those you see giving service. And I'm not talking anything terribly formal, a thank you, a cold drink. As everybody here who's served knows, it makes a difference. Formal recognition, awards. Awards are the frosting, they're not the cake. Awards are not the reason, the end all be all to do service. When I was starting out and I was a college student in Armesia, my roommate at the time took on a wonderful, tremendous task. She organized the first Artemisian phone directory. She had been a Girl Scout prior to the SCA, and her experience from that is you do your project, you get your merit badge. So she organized this great effort coordinating across groups to get, names and phone numbers to put together this directory. And then the finished product was produced and everybody was like, this was great, but no awards were forthcoming. And I believe she was kind of like, where is my merit badge? It was frustrating for her, but award or not, there's nothing that can take away that she created this great tool that then, of course, some names and numbers were out of date 6 weeks after it got published, but it was this great tool everybody could throw in their bag. And if the SCA Rescue Service needed to kick in, you could whip out your directory and find somebody in Haley, Idaho to call to see if you could get some assistance. Fortunately, after stepping away from the SCA for a while, my roommate came back and found her love and found her niche and stayed with it. But some people, if the awards aren't forthcoming, we lose them. They never come back. The award isn't the end all be all. It's making that great event, making those memories, having made somebody else's day a little easier, a little better. The memories. So a lot of times people say SCA is, it's make-believe. It's just a hobby. It's not real. And some of the things are not. My title and $7.50 will get me a fancy cup of coffee at a coffee joint. Some things are very real. The relationships we forge, the time we spend, the memories we build, the friendships we make. Any number of people have found their chosen family and frequently their significant other through the SCA, and that's very real. That's what it's all about. One thing we should touch on, burnout. So more than one person mentioned helium hand. Oh, I'll do it. There is a point where it can get to be too much. We made a commitment. We're in there for the long haul. We promised we want to do it. Some of the signs of burnout. When going to the event isn't, yay, we get to go to the event, but is, another event. I've got to make it through another event. If I don't go, nothing will get done. The event won't happen. If you are not having fun at some level, if you aren't enjoying it at some level, if it's become drudgery, the people around you will feel that. You'll be weighted down by it. The people around you will be weighted down by it. Now, you can't always just cut and run. If you've accepted a responsibility, yes, we're volunteers. But if you've accepted a responsibility, then an edge of that volunteerism has gone away for fulfilling that responsibility. This is when you lean on your support network. And also, like I said, if you can have somebody shadow you, if you can have somebody interested in the office that you're doing or the task you're doing, so they can help you shoulder some of the burden and perhaps in the future feel like they want to take it on. And sometimes a change is as good as a break. Somebody who's been doing the same thing for a long time, like say being chronicler, and they did a wonderful newsletter and it's been great and everybody loves it and has just sort of gotten used to it getting done. Sometimes just taking a break to something totally different, The particular chronicler I'm thinking of was like, well, I was actually originally interested in archery before I wound up being an officer. Just making the change to archery kept her involved, but let her step away from that. Time to get another newsletter out. Time to badger everybody I have to badger to get submissions in. Sometimes a change can be as good as a break. Sometimes you need to take that break. Life happens. You know, people do things, start a business, graduate school. The nice thing is the continuity of the SCA means that at that time in your life, when you're ready to come back, there's an SCA to come back to. Now, of course, the big one is COVID. It's been a little different, but you know, we're all hoping on, counting on that there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be an SCA to come back to. How much time have I used? Okay. Do we want to have some discussions or questions? Let me check the chat and see if something's come up in the chat while I've just been talking. Nope, seems like it was the introductions. All right. Well, at this point, I'm throwing it open to questions, discussion, anybody, anything wants to bring up. Please, Una.
One thing I found really helped is having a co-autocrat, making sure that, you know, there's actually two of you working an event. It helps the main person in case there is a car accident, a deer in the road, you know, illness. And the second, it gives them the chance to learn the job without having the full responsibility. And it makes it easier, better, funner, for a different way to put it, for everybody. And that way too, if you've got to be in two places at the same time, you've got two people. So that's kind of what I think is really important, is having that sort of co-autocrat or co-person.
The other thing I would add to that is having a second co-autocrat gives you a chance to have somebody who can complement your capabilities. I should not run an event on my own because I'm a horrible organizer. I'm a great go out and doer. But Melodia, my wife, is a wonderful organizer, but she's not as capable of doing a lot of the heavy physical things. So together we make a great set of autocrat because we make everything happen. She takes care of the organization. I take care of making sure tents get set up.
Thank you, Una. Thank you, Ua.
I have my little hand up. I'm sorry.
Please go ahead, Johanna.
Oh, okay. One thing I had two points to make that piggyback on what you've said. As a seneschal, one of the things that we need to do when we're dealing with a event coordinator, especially when this is their first time doing this, you know, that's going to be a little scary and stressful. One of the things that you have to sort of let them understand is something is always going to go a little wrong. Sometimes it's going to be a little thing. Sometimes it's going to be a big thing. But going into the event knowing that nothing is going to be perfect. When I was talking to the brand new event coordinator for Knock on Wood, she had said to me during a meeting, I just want this to be perfect. And I tried to dissuade her, you know, there's always something that's going to be a little off. The best thing you can do is just take a breath and recognize that before the event so that, you know, it doesn't become such an emotional shock when something goes wrong, you know. Anyone who's ever been a bride at their wedding knows that at some point they're going to cry because something didn't work out quite right, because the emotional impact is so high. The other thing is that stress is not fun. Work is not necessarily fun. And we do this as a hobby because we want to have fun, but not everything is going to be fun in the traditional definition of fun. So I think sometimes as a service person, keeping in mind that maybe satisfaction is a better goal sometimes than fun. No, you know, that the sense of satisfaction is going to give you an emotional impact the way that, you know, as Kat's well aware, I rarely ended an event dirty and tired after packing up and looking at her and go, we do this for fun. So yes, service is not always going to be fun because there's a lot of stress involved. And what's the important thing is recognizing where your stress impact is going to be and, you know, finding ways to mitigate that, whether it's making sure you've got a coordinator to take over a certain aspect of it, or, you know, working on your own, you know, emotional responses to things. That's what I have to say. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Johanna. Anybody, please, Helga.
I was just thinking that one way you can help with your own burnout is to accept help from others, even if you don't think they're going to do the job as well as you would have. Give them a chance. And if you do that, you might encourage them to help again some other time with something they may be better at. But you won't know if you don't accept their help. I have a really bad tendency to do it myself, got to do it myself. And I had to learn sometimes it's okay to let somebody else do something. Even if they don't do it the way I would have done it, it gets done, we're good. So I think that's something important to remember.
Definitely. Thank you. Anyone else? So, Pelicans have been recognized for their service. So peerage isn't so much an award as it is a job. And our job is to be there, to hopefully do things like mentor, jump in, assist. So I would like to personally invite everybody here, if there's ever an occasion when I can assist you, please do not hesitate. I consider that my duty, my job. And hopefully, I'm going to presume that's not just me. Any other questions, comments, funny anecdotes? All right, that's all I had prepared. So I appreciate all of you for attending, for discussing, for throwing in your viewpoints. And this is just the start point. Obviously, well, a continuum, actually. It sounds like many of you have already started. You're at various levels of service through your SCA career, and it sounds like have interest in continuing forward. And like I said, I personally am offering any assistance that I can provide. Just grab me. Hey, Mistress Cat. And thank you very much for your interest in this class in particular and StagsCon in general.